Okay, hi everybody, it's Kat, and I'm back. I got to call this one Game of Thrones 7.5 because I just realized as I was reviewing my video regarding Jon Snow and whether he died and was resurrected by Melisandre, etc., that I left out a really important scene that really, I thought, underscored the whole idea about what really happened with Jon Snow. So, in the other video, real quick recap, I talked about that Jon Snow had already been to the other side and came back. So he'd been to the land of the dead. He'd gone beyond the veil. He'd rent the veil. And so I talked about, in the Christian faith in the other video about that when Jesus died and he rose out of the tomb, that he rent the veil in the temple, which was the veil that was between the sacred, where they kept the Ark of the Covenant, and only the highest priests could go in there, and everybody else had to stay outside of that area and worship in the temple. So when Jesus rose, he rent the veil in the temple and destroyed the barrier between the sacred and the mundane, right? Okay. And then throughout that video, I discussed whether Melisandre had brought Jon back, and I said no, she didn't, and I still believe that. Even if there's some connotations there of Jesus raising Lazarus, Jesus raising Lazarus from the tomb, she didn't really do it. And in fact, what I talked about was because Jon had gone already to the other side, he'd already gone to the land of the dead, and then he came back, that somehow he'd been made invulnerable, kind of like Achilles being dipped in the river Styx, right? And I forgot to talk about this one scene, and I believe it was the last episode of season 5, or it was the next to the last, right before he died. And Jon is in Hardhomme, and he's trying to rescue the wildlings. He's trying to convince them to come back with him to the other side of the wall and join basically an army, try to prevent the others from coming over. And the others show up, and there's this epic battle that's happening. And in fact, one of the others, so one of the leaders of the others, comes down and confronts him, and he and Jon Snow start having a battle. And Jon Snow finally gets hold of his own sword, Longclaw, which was a Valyrian sword that had been passed down, and then handed to him while he was in the Night's Watch. And he starts having this fight with the other, and guess what happens? Well, his sword smashes the indestructible weapon of the other. So this ice weapon that supposedly is harder than all other man-made weapons and is able to cut through armor and break other men's weapons, Jon Snow's weapon breaks that weapon, smashes it to pieces, and then he kills the other. So eventually, essentially what we're seeing here in that episode was that Jon Snow defeated death. Okay, so go back and look at the original number 7 video where I talked about Jon Snow and what happened or why he was really dead. There is a lot of Christ-like concepts being exposed in his resurrection and his death and resurrection, where they show him dying in the snow, and there's a sign above his head that says traitor, just like the sign above Jesus on the cross. And of course in Dante's Inferno, we talked about the frozen wasteland that is the lowest level of hell, that's reserved for traitors. So there's a bunch in there. But just to wrap this up, again, why Jon Snow was invulnerable to death. He defeated death while he was in Helheim, or in Hardhomme. So, thank you. Think about that for a second, and I'll see you in a little bit. Bye.